Hi there, it's Andrew Burke from Code School Halifax again. In our last session, we got all of our numbers showing up on our page, and we even got totals, and we got some nice formatting functions that make the numbers look a little nicer too. Next up, we're going to add some extra numbers that we're doing calculations to get to show up on the screen, and we're going to do some filtering and shifting of some of the data around to make it even nicer to look at. Okay, so hang on, here we go. Okay, here's the latest version of the page as of our last session, and you can see we've got all of our countries listed with their numbers in a table, and we have another smaller table up top just showing the totals, and the numbers all have commas or in between all the thousands, which is great. And we're going to do a few things today. One of the things, we're going to get rid of a lot of these countries that have zero. Maybe they're not recording the recoveries, maybe they don't have that many cases or many recoveries yet. Anyway, we have a lot of zeros that are sort of taking up space, and that'll also handle some of these weird ones like this blank one and this weird version of Azerbaijan that doesn't seem to be actually set up right. So we can clear those out, and then we'll only be showing actual cases that have recoveries, which will be much more useful for this table. We're also going to go in and start doing some other calculations for some better values. So things like how big a growth in recoveries are we getting? So if we have 11 new and we've had a 44 total, we can do some division and figure out the percentage of growth in recoveries, which is cool. And we can even do, since we're tracking internally, the data that we're getting shows us a total number of cases, we can do recovered and how big a share of that is of the total number of cases, which might be kind of cool. This is a bit of division and a bit of making a percentage out of a division. That's about as complicated as the math is going to get here. This is probably stuff you may have done in junior high, so don't panic. And one of the nice things with computers is they will actually do the math for you. You just have to figure out the formula once, and then it'll do it all for you. So you don't have to have those headaches like you had in high school where you had to do all those exercises and over again. Computers do that stuff for you now. It's great. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to filter out all these zeros. And we're going to do that using what's called a conditional. Okay, and that happens in here. We'll get this out of the way. Here is our JavaScript. Here is our HTML. Here's our CSS. We're not going to worry about CSS for a little while. So I'm going to clear that out of the way just to give us some space. And here's the bit where we actually write out the countries. So we get our data, which is our list of countries and other things, and we go through that here. So here is our thing where we're looping through the list of countries and adding stuff to our table, right? Now, what we'd love to do is be able to check to see if total recovered is 0. And if it is 0, then skip this. But if it isn't 0, or if it's bigger than 0, for example, write this stuff out. So it's only going to do it if this is bigger than 0. And nicely enough, the way you do it is by actually telling the code to ask if. Okay, so if, and then in brackets, it's going to do a test to see what needs to be true or not. And then when it's done with that check, if that check comes up as true, it's going to do the stuff that's in these brackets. Okay, just like this for loop does stuff that's in these brackets, the if is going to do stuff in this brackets only if what's in here is true. So for example, we can do a simple version that's going to check if true. Okay, that's kind of pointless because, of course, it's always going to be true, but let's see what happens when we run that. Everything comes through. Now, if we set that to be false, okay, you'll notice even Visual Studio Code's able to notice, hey, this isn't going to run. We're going to fade it out because false is always going to end up skipping that. We try to run that, we get nothing, okay? So basically, the thing that's in here needs to evaluate to a true or a false. Because you have to do a bunch of things and check to see if things are true or false. And in this case, we're going to see if next country total recovered is bigger than 0. Okay? You can see that there. If you remember from your maybe junior high or high school math class, the bigger than is that little thing where you've got this little sort of triangular thingy, and the big side is to the big and the little side is to the little there. Okay, so this is going to ask if our country has a total recovered of bigger than 0, then if that's true, then do this. If that's not true, then skip it and just move on. Okay, and then it's going to go back up here and go for the next country and check that too. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, this is much nicer. That weird fake Azerbaijan and that blank one's gone. Now we've got Afghanistan and Bahamas and a various bunch of other countries, but we don't have any more of those zeros. We have a few zeros here because some countries, Latvia only has one recovery, and that's not new yet. So hope that person is doing okay now. And anyway, you can see here the numbers are still showing through, and we don't have any of those extra zeros all over the place, which is nice. Okay, so that's a quick little bit of code that's cleaned this whole list up really, really nicely. Now, fancy JavaScript people will all be complaining and saying, hey, you could have used a filter function. Yes, I could. But in this case, this is a bit clearer and easier for people to get the hang of what we're starting. One thing to note here is we wrapped this thing up in an if, and that means this stuff, and especially because we've got the brackets here, just like this has brackets and everything inside the brackets is indented, this stuff here should also be indented a little bit to make sure that you can tell where your conditions are. It's easy when you're editing code to wrap stuff up in conditions and other things like that and then forget to indent them, and then it's harder to tell what's going on and where things are happening. So you can manually move these forward by using tab or something like that, and it'll set that up. You can even select a whole bunch of things and hit tab. I'm going to undo that for now because there's another thing that's great. If you right click anywhere in here, there is format document, and that will basically figure out the indentations for you for the whole document and reorganize everything for you. When you're getting started with code, it's a good idea to try this every so often just to make sure that everything gets cleaned up properly. As you're getting the hang of how things fit together, it's good to have the computer actually sort of show you how it's supposed to be done. Here we go. When we hit format document, it re-indented these. It twiddled with a few things up here too. So now we've got this indented properly, and that makes everything a little easier to see. And now this has got our filter is making this easier to see too. Okay, so let's try that again. Bang. We have our filtered list. Okay, now here's some fun stuff we're also going to need to do, which is try to figure out a rate of how fast it's growing. So we're going to take our new rate and we're going to divide it into the recovered or something like that. Yeah, I think so. And that should give us a number that we can say is the rate of change. Okay. Now, this is going to start looking like a bit like a spreadsheet. If you ever worked with spreadsheet like Excel or something like that, the idea where you have rows and columns and a certain column is going to be a formula based on other values, that's exactly what a spreadsheet's doing. That's what we do in coding a lot of the time. Okay. So what I often like to do is set up, as I'm trying to figure this out, I'll set up a little function that handles this. Okay, and we calculate growth rate or recovery growth. How about that? And we'll pass it one of these country entries. So it has all the information we need, and it's going to get the information that we want. So it's going to be new recovered and total recovered. Okay, that'll be. And I sometimes like to break these out in here just so I can see what's going on. I can do, for example, var rate equals country entry new recovered divided by country entry total recovered. Okay. And we can then, if we want to, we can even console log and see if we're doing this right. Okay, so let's add this right in here in our next country thing. And one thing that's nice is here we might want to do things like double check to make sure total recovered is not 0 because you can't divide by 0. But if we do it in here, we'll automatically have that because we're only running this if it's bigger than 0. Okay, so we can just for now, without actually writing anything out, we can just do calculate recovery growth with next country. Okay, and then let's take a look at our console, which is here, and save this and reload the page. And you can see here it's going to run. Used 2 and 0 and got 0. Used 11 and 4 and got 25%. So you see it's gone up by 25%. 6 and 37 and got 0.16216. Okay, so it's got a bunch of different things and got 0.9. Okay, so you can compare these against here. So for example, Andorra has 10 recoveries. That's 9 new recoveries just yesterday. Good for Andorra. Anyway, so that's 90% change, right? So, and if anybody out there is a statistician or an expert mathematician and I'm using the wrong numbers, that's fine. We're just getting this for an example. I'm sorry if I'm not very good at math. All right, I don't remember how all the formulas work. But anyway, you can see here all these sort of numbers and it's little decimals, but that's okay. We'll fix that later. So you can see how those fit together. So, and that's just calculate recovery growth. So let's add that right in here and go TD plus calculate recovery growth, next country, and see what that does. Okay, so remember, calculate recovery growth calculates a rate. We can get rid of that because we don't need it because we're going to show it now, and returns that, which means we get the result sent through here, and it's going to stick it in here and be wrapped up in a new set of TDs. Okay, so let's clear that and put this away. And let's run this. Okay, now we don't need the header. We'll put the header in a minute. Okay, so there we got our numbers. Okay, now this is kind of ugly because these are all sorts of decimal places because it divides it and just gives you, a decimal, which is useful but not all that useful for us. So just like we have format big number, let's add another formatting thing. Okay, maybe format percentage. Naming things is always annoying. And you're always trying to figure out the best way to name things. And often what programmers will do is once they've even finished a program and they know it works right, they go through and rename everything just to make sure the naming fits what they need properly. This is one of the aspects of what's called refactoring, where you don't actually change how the program works. You just reorganize it to make it work, make it cleaner and easier to work with. And so naming things is one of those big things. So we're going to do a little bit of that at some point, but not today. So var results equals. So what we want to do is we want to take our number. So it's some number like 0.0505 or whatever, right? And we want to turn that to a piece of text that says 5% or 5.06% in this case, because it'll round it, okay? Or 68.42%, for example, or 90%, all right? So we want to multiply what we've got by 100 and leave 2 decimal places in, okay? So JavaScript has a bunch of that built in, but the first step is to take our number that we've got, which would be 0.162, whatever, and multiply it by 100. And sometimes I like to put this in comments, okay? So that's sort of what we're getting coming in. And then here, it's going to be 61.261261, okay? That's pretty good, but we're going to do even better. We're going to take result, and we're going to make result, and we're going to use a thing called toFixed, which limits it to only 2 decimal places. So that should become 61.26. And then we'll add our percentage at the end, okay, which will make it, and then return result. This is a handy little utility you can use all over the place. JavaScript has a bunch of different things built in that can handle some of this for you, but this is simple enough we can do it ourselves fairly readily. So let's see what happens here. If instead of just this, we do format So this is getting a little hairy because we're taking our value here, our country entry, we're running it through this function that then returns a decimal number, and then we're running the result of that into this function, which formats it to look nice, okay? So this, you can get things inside other things all the way in one little slot. Now, if we wanted to be a bit more proper, we could break this out into several lines. We can get rid of this. Okay, but this is two things nicely tightly inside of each other. One's a formatter, one's a calculator. I think that's okay. If we had more than that, I'd maybe start breaking it out, but this should be fine. Let's see what happens. Okay, here we go. 25, 16.2, 68.42%, 24.69%. So there you can see that's our growth rate. Okay, now let's put this in our header. Okay, now we got our growth rate. That's pretty handy. You can see there. Okay, that's one thing we can do. The next one that might be kind of good is to actually show how much the recoveries are a rate, or how much they are a share of the total number of cases. Okay, and we don't want to show the total number of cases on the chart because that's frankly just going to bring us down. But having a number which shows how many recoveries we're tracking based on the total number of cases might be kind of heartwarming to see how many people are actually getting out of this and the recovery rate, because so many of these things focus on the fatality rate. And to be honest, the recovery rate is usually quite a bit more in this case. So let's take another look at that and see what we can do. So that would be calculate, function, calculate recovery rate. And we'll do my country entry again. Okay. And we do say basically the same thing. Equals country entry total recovered divided by country entry total cases. I can't remember what it's called. So you know what? I'm actually going to instead console log country entry here, because you remember that puts it into the console and shows us all the little entities. So let's see what goes on here. And, oh, we don't call this yet. So let's try that up here again, just like we did before. Calculate recovery rate. Next country. And now let's see what happens. Okay, here's our thing, and we can take a look in here. It's new confirmed, new deaths, new recovered, total confirmed. So it's total confirmed. So let's go down here. And it's total confirmed, not total cases. Okay. And once again, because recoveries is going to be bigger than 0, because that's the only time it's going to run here, we don't have to do this call if recovered, because you're going to have more confirmed cases. You're going to have some confirmed cases are always going to go up. There's always going to be more confirmed than recovered, because you can't recover from something you haven't been confirmed in. So that's going to make this a little easier. Okay, but let's see. And let's put this back. And let's put this in here. Same kind of idea. Okay, but instead of calculate recovery growth, let's say calculate recovery rate. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, 19%, 2.7, 27.8. Now we might want to do some spot checking against the numbers. We can look at China, 92.3% recovered, right? Because they pretty well licked this by now. So that looks about right. Other countries are just getting started, so they got kind of low recovery rates. And you can sort of see, cruise ships and Diamond Princess, they've been doing this for a while, so more people have recovered. And Germany's got 20% recovered. So you can see how these are coming together. Gibraltar, everyone's recovered who they've tracked. That's good for them. Anyway, so you can see how these things fit together. So that looks like it's pretty good. And once again, we've used exactly the same formatter here that makes it look kind of nice. Okay, so there we've got ourselves two sets of numbers, and of course, we'll need to put that up here. Okay, growth and share, or rate or something. Anyway, share of cases is whatever. I'm not a mathematician, so I don't remember the exact words for these for statistics. But you get the idea that it's going to do some numbers and it's going to figure things out, and there we go. Before we go, I had two little things that I realized when reviewing this video before posting it that I wanted to cover a little bit more properly. So the first is down here in these functions. One of the things we're doing is we're dividing something by another. And as you may remember from math class, you can't really divide something by 0. It gets weird, right? It's technically infinite or something. You can't divide something by 0. Now, in this case, total recovered is always going to be better than 0, but it's usually not a safe idea to have these you could call these calculations on anything, and we can't guarantee that they're going to get good data when they're sent in. So, for example, if we did this up here, and let's put it outside of this check, and just did a console log on that, this will run it on every country, not just the ones that have actual recovered numbers. So let's put our console in and reload the page. You can see here there's a bunch of NANs, okay? That's not a kind of really tasty bread from India. It means not a number, okay? So it's something that JavaScript can't even do anything with because it's not even a number. It tried to divide by 0, we got not a number. That's not going to be useful on our page. We want to figure out what we want it to do if the thing is 0 and handle that inside the function rather than outside of it. So in here, what I often like to do is I can set up the rate as 0. So that's going to be the default value. If nothing else works, it's going to be a 0. And then we can go if country entry total recovered is bigger than 0, then set rate equals that, okay? And we could do, if actually has an else, we could do rate equals 0, but we've already done it up here, and it's only the one case. Okay, if do this, else do that, that's one of the things you'll see in code. We're not going to go that fancy this time because we've already got the value, the safety value, which should return 0 regardless, and if we have proper numbers up here, then it will return whatever that proper value is. Let's try this now. Okay, now we've got numbers that seem to make sense, and it comes up as 0, 0, 0 in here. Now we could do checks for not a number in the display side of things to actually do whatever, but just returning a 0 is pretty good. We can do the same thing with our other ones. Basically the same kind of idea. Okay, but it's total confirmed. Once again, not something that's going to happen much in our context, but it's nice to be safe down here instead of worrying about it in the framing. So functions, what's nice is we can do all this error checking and stuff, and it's only one line of code that we call, and it's got all this extra stuff going into it. So the extra logic, extra comparisons, maybe do some safety checks, all those kinds of things can all happen in here. And that doesn't change how we call it down here. We just have some extra things that make it safer. So this is one of the nice things with functions. You can have a lot going on, even if it's the core of it's one line. You have all sorts of things to check and format things and clean things up and everything, and it can all happen there. So that should run nicely. And of course, the final thing is to make sure we get all of our stuff in GitHub. Now, all these changes was only a few things in JavaScript, and so we can close that. I keep saying GitHub. GitHub is something else we'll talk about later, but Git, put it into Git. All right. Anyway, let's give it a name. Formulas for shares and rates, and then check it, and we are safe. So we are safe to make a mess next time before we go live. All right. One thing I'll just tell you, I often do these recordings several times, and just to make sure, because I'll sometimes make mistakes or whatever, just to make sure that I know what I'm doing. And what's great is I can do them, and then I can roll back in Git to where I was before, and then start again fresh again. So it's a nice way to do these recordings, just to roll back. It's also a good thing for handling code, but it's also good for recordings. All right, there we go, and back to your regular scheduled programming. Okay, next session, we're probably going to do some extra formatting to make this look a little nicer so it's a little easier on the eyes. I think the alignment's not quite right, and it's kind of hard to tell which countries are which, so we're going to add some striping and lines and borders and things, and maybe some background stuff as well. All right, so stay tuned.